ancient city, perhaps a lost civilization, in the corner square of the marked grave.
Imagine the cycles of the centuries, time passing under the stars.
The design of time is best explored on the ground in the dig.
We search through tons of sand and dust, but the lives of the people of the ancient city are beyond us.
I am not an archaeologist. I am not the sifter of dust. I am the teller of the forgotten stories of the lost cities. And these are the tales.
I tell the story of the first city and the people who lived before all history to come, gleaned from the sparse record under the earth, finally resurfaced in the light of the sun. An ancient city. First erected in the dead of winter, the cold fending off attack. An ancient city destroyed in the dead of winter, the frozen moat useless against chariots and raiders on horseback. Ancient ruins under a mound, a hill, a tale left untouched for 6,000 years. The still point of a turning world.
A steel box? Beck, give me a hand. Ow! Fuck. Sorry.
How did you cut your finger?
The lid on the box is welded tight.
When was your last tetanus shot?
A booster right before the dig.
You know, you could have used a crowbar.
Over my dead body. These are old-fashioned coat hanger and blowtorch welds done by some rogue as far back as the late 1800s. At that time, finding lost cities to loot was in vogue.
You mean like a Schliemann wannabe? If so, boy, was he off the mark. Troy is hundreds of miles to the south.
Well, obviously it's nothing gold or silver. They would have taken that. It could be an ancient rock or a piece of clay, but still something significant.
You want me to take it to the lab to x-ray? Or crack it open now?
Beck, let's get a crowbar.
I was digging in the wrong place, searching for the ancient city of Troy. But Heinrich Schliemann, when the urgent
won the race
and the ancient
the
converged,
newspapers
showed Mrs. Schliemann wearing.
I'm writing this
treasure of pride
under conditions of great privation.
digging for
After
a
my
lost city
workmen left
on a tell
near the
I
Danube,
found a tiny gold amulet in the last sifting of dirt. It's engraved with the image of what I first took as the helmet-wearing goddess Athena. But some kind of writing is inscribed around the image. I compared it to Gladstone's book on pre-Greek languages and took to deciphering it, and I came up with the heroic daughter with curls in her helmet.
At level 3A, wood posts once held the roof of what seems to be an artisan's workshop. The industrious efforts of apprentices now found as dust and traces, swept into post holes in the floor. Miscut rocks and mischiseled faces sifted with charcoal, shells, and acorns.
Here, I am, the master artisan. I dared enter the city gate as a foreign migrant, quite hungry and practically a beggar. But I soon found acceptance among the many others who also came from elsewhere. I gained a foothold with my skill, creating votive statues of clay and rock, jewelry of copper, gold, and silver.
I imagine the work is diligent. No one talks. The scene floats in my mind alone.
2 apprentices, one on each side, engrave gold jewelry, create clay pots, and sculpt images out of stone.
Mentor, sir, I have completed engraving a gold amulet.
It's at the center of this gold necklace.
Let me give it to her.
Why don't you grind grain or sweep the floor or something?
Your head is an empty clay pot. Why don't you stick it in the oven?
Instead of a goddess, you created the likeness of a heroine.
Who stuffed her curls in a helmet?
I knew her. Mark this image with her name. Whoever wears this amulet should know she has a story to be given voice.
This one is reason. It has a faraway look. This is the poetess.
A court arabesque.
And this is the mentor.
Oh, where did the amulet go? I had it around my neck. Help me find it.
Let me bring my rocks.
The image on this amulet seems familiar. A young woman wearing a helmet.
You know, Homer describes Athena as wearing a warrior's helmet.
Yeah, but could it be a different sort of image? A real human woman that they considered to be very special? A female hero, maybe?
What's intriguing are the unrelated signs inscribed around the engraved image.
It's too bad the handwritten notes left in the box had completely deteriorated.
We are left with an unknown language, an unknown alphabet, telling a lost story.
I'm a struggling archaeological professor who has a problem with time. It's responsible for my worsening health. Oh Lord, when the urgent and the ancient converge.
When time was very, very new, a stone curtain held back the sea, wine dark blue. The ground, the grass, the tree, the sky felt the pent-up tension of anticipation, but remained motionless to the eye. Suddenly, an earthquake of such strength, time moved forward, just a finger length, and the stone wall broke and buckled. Cold salt water exploded across the well-populated valley. The shoreline pushed westward and became a black ocean. The few survivors of the flood of the world found refuge on a high meadow between mountains. There, they broke ground for the acropolis of the city.
Listen all, ye live in a city of heroes, a people of many languages and lineages, living in peace for hundreds of years.
Once, an old man was abandoned by a merchant caravan, the master ridding himself of a burdensome slave.
when the long line of mules and human backs crossed the city, loaded with pottery and copper jewelry, I was left behind.
I was brought here, within the walled Acropolis,
Taken like cattle.
as a whore. They pulled my hair and tortured to make me obey.
Forsaken, raped,
Enslaved.
I screamed from the depths of my humanity.
Shout louder.
They would taunt. So in holy clothes I screech and shriek my curse, always couch in respectable verse. Sunlight ancestor, I am mother. Let men fulfill their dark desires. Womanhood yet clutches us. Like a baby wanting the breast, but still not close enough. Child, come spring, light up. Strong, glorious things.
We widened the river-filled moat, reinforced the stone wall girth. We thought our city the safest place on earth.
A city with no need for warrior class for as long as anyone remembers.
The dead were left where they fell. The city in ruins, abandoned out of fear. Nature and the earth claimed what remained beneath a mound, a hill, a tell. No one touched for 6,000 years.
When I think about what the dig has taught me about time, history has been rather primitive through most of history. Until we got the internet and cell phones, or before that, maybe television. Wait, the Industrial Revolution. The invention of the steam engine, it changed everything. No, it was the landing on the moon. No, at an even earlier point, we discovered the world is round. Yes, and we figured out that the Earth goes around the sun. Knowing that changed everything. On top of the tell, time moves in both directions. I am at the center of time.
At this point in time, war was a rare thing, without so much as minor hostilities. Groups bartered for wives, youths and maidens found each other, and there was much intermarrying.
The Copper City existed for hundreds of years in the light of peace, not living by the sword, until a heroine bade us face the darkness we too long ignored.
We were friends on the grassland outside the wall where I guarded the city stockpiles of ore, and the copper smelters and pottery ovens burned. I had watched her before, as she rode at a gallop across the meadow. She jumped a small ravine, and to show off, she turned.
No hands, see? Are you paying attention to me?
Once we rode together along the far mountain path and discovered a sacred enclave carved into the rock. Amazed at the most ancient artifice, I asked, "What god is worshipped here?" She answered, "Orpheus."
Orpheus was godlike to his admirers. He earned the love of Princess Eurydice through the music of his flute and lyre. But even before their wedding night, he made the unexpected trip to Hades, having died from a poisonous snake bite. She was very sorrowful.
One day, I heard that the horse raiders had taken Dawn. Couldn't believe she was gone. I left the city with a posse of 10 men. We tracked the raiders across the high plains and followed the cryptic paths through the high mountains. At the bottom of a stone cliff was a cave. Dimly lit and wet, like an opening to a dank, dark underworld. We quickly discovered the secret of the crypt. A deep chamber with the bodies of unransomed women and girls in it. I turned and recognized her wicker helmet. She lay quiet and glassy-eyed. Her strong spirit for fighting back had earned her a spear point to the side.
This is the story of the last night of the people of the city, aware of the offing in the end. Their voices crack in the cold, dark wind.
Dawn was carried into the Acropolis by the young man Boreas. I asked if he noticed she was dead. He swore she was alive. That is, when he brought her out of the darkness, he announced to all.
This woman was betrothed to me in feeling. Don't you understand? The descendants of Cain have been loosed upon the world. Look at her. They will not stop at this city's walls. There can be no peace now.
Don't think me naive. I have seen massacred settlements, slaughtered clans along the caravan routes, armies in battles that both sides lost. I have seen wives try to recover their husbands' hacked pieces, scattered across the battlefield. I've seen a winning side desecrate the remains of the enemy dead by throwing them into stinking bogs. And I have seen people retrieve only the heads of their dead warriors, leaving bodies to the vultures. The devastation of war is real. I perceive the world has far fewer husbands and sons, wives and daughters because of the heavy toll of war.
I don't understand. How can we have no possibility of hidden escape?
Mentor, I heard once a story about a tunnel dug centuries ago. A tunnel that leads from the Acropolis under the moat to the banks of the river.
I've heard these rumors before. There is no escape tunnel.
I know where it is. I'm the one who found it. The entrance to the underground tunnel is at the bottom of the granary pit.
The torchlight withers with this last remark, and the moonless dusk has turned very dark. Since all on the Acropolis had spoken their keep, best go home and get some sleep.
I don't believe we've met. I'm setting up a laser for surveying.
We are the people of a city with many languages and lineages. Our city must now stand against raiders who come from over the mountains.
I've excavated this city. 3 walls of mud and rock and the frozen moat. The city is quite vulnerable to attack with horses and chariots.
The city will stand impenetrable if its people be truly united.
To the eyes of a trained archaeologist, obvious evidence points to a city destroyed by war. Skeletons lying on the ground with obsidian arrow points lodged in their skulls. The first city was founded like a new idea written on parchment, but erased and overwritten with the past. Then someone in the future comes along and discovers the original ancient text, all but obliterated.
Berserkers, fierce and monstrous, hell-bent on real gold, putting everything in sight to the torch, armored and armed with bows and stone maces, long hair whipping around their faces, thunderous drums and frenzied dance whip them to terrible ferocity, as if the descendants of Cain have been loosed upon the world. Like great auroch bulls overrunning the mountains, the inhumane stampede ripped the ground with thundering hooves, tearing the city walls open with indelibly sharp horns, charging through the lower city to the Acropolis. Burning walls caved, and the black clay bled. The rampage raged against women, children, and the aged.
The inevitable, the inevitable, the inevitable, the inevitable, the inevitable, past.
We anticipated a long siege. I helped divide the store of grain among the households. I discovered the ancient escape tunnel at the bottom of the empty grain well. It had collapsed long ago, but it was clear enough for one person to crawl on belly and elbows.
And you didn't take it upon yourself to bury the dead?
I never returned until now.
I believe the first city, the Copper City, was built upon the hopes of humankind for the future. The ancient people had not yet been corrupted by the forces of history as we. We've had wars that encompassed the entire planet. We're doomed, too, shocked at the truth. On top of the tell, time moves in both directions, and I am at the center.
Cholera.
Linda. Meredith.
John.
Zarya.
Kayla.